guys! Welcome back to my channel. So in today's discussion, I will bring to you Chapter 2, Lesson 4 of Ethics, entitled Filipino Values and Moral Development, Strengths and Weaknesses of the Filipino Character. But before that, let us first refamiliarize ourselves with some terms, namely Filipino values and moral development. So, Filipino values refers to the set of values that a majority of the Filipino have historically held important in their lives. It includes their own unique assemblage of consistent ideologies, moral codes, ethical practices, etiquette, and cultural and personal values that are promoted by their society. While moral development focuses on the emergence, change, and understanding of morality from infancy through adulthood, it develops across a lifetime and is influenced by an individual's experiences and their behavior when faced with moral issues based on social and cultural norms, rules, and laws. With that in mind, let us now proceed to the strengths and weaknesses of the Filipino character, which are actually findings that were based on bibliographic surveys and interviews that was conducted by a task force headed by Dr. Patricia Likwanan. For the strengths of the Filipino character, what are there that makes us strong? We have first, pakikipagkapwa-tao or regard for others. Filipinos are open to others and feel one with others. We regard others with dignity and respect and deal with them as fellow human beings. Pagkikipagkapwa-tao is manifested in a basic sense of justice and fairness and in concern for others. It is demonstrated in the Filipinos' ability to empathize with others, in helpfulness and generosity in times of need or pakikiramay, in the practice of bayanihan or mutual assistance, and in the famous Filipino hospitality. Because of pakikipagkapwa-tao, it results in camaraderie and a feeling of closeness to one another, which helps promote unity and a sense of social justice. The second strength is family orientation. Filipinos possess a genuine and deep love for the family, which includes not simply the spouses and children, parents and siblings, but also to grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and godparents, in which we are known for having an extended family. To the Filipino, one's family is the source of personal identity, the source of emotional and material support, and the person's main commitment and responsibility. Concern for family, honor and respect for the family, generosity towards kin, and the sacrifices one endures for the family, all these lead to a sense of family, which results to a feeling of belongingness or rootedness and a basic sense of security. The third strength is joy and humor. Filipinos have a cheerful and fun-loving approach to life and its ups and downs. Our sense of humor and the propensity for happiness contributes not only to the Filipino charm, but to the indomitability of the Filipino spirit. This sense of joy and humor is manifested in the Filipino love for socials and celebrations, in our capacity to laugh even in the most trying of times, and in the appeal of political satire. The result of our being happy and humorous is emotional balance, a healthy disrespect for power and office, and the capacity to survive. The fourth one is flexibility, adaptability, and creativity. Filipinos have a great capacity to adjust and to adapt to circumstances and to the surrounding environment, both physical and social. Unplanned or unanticipated events are never overly disturbing or disorienting, as the flexible Filipino adjusts to whatever happens. We possess a tolerance for ambiguity that enables us to remain unfazed by uncertainty or lack of information. We are creative, resourceful, adept at learning, and able to improvise and make use of whatever is at hand in order to create and produce. And the result of it is productivity, innovation, entrepreneurship, equanimity, and survival. The fifth one is hard work and industry. Filipinos have the capacity for hard work given proper conditions. The desire to raise one's standard of living and to possess the essentials of a decent life for one's family, combined with the right opportunities and incentives, stimulate the Filipino to work very hard. This is manifested most noticeably in a willingness to take risks with jobs abroad and to work there at 2 or 3 jobs. The result is productivity and entrepreneurship for some, and survival despite poverty for others. The sixth and seventh strength is just the same, which is faith and religiosity. Filipinos have a deep faith in God. Innate religiosity enables us to comprehend and genuinely accept reality in the context of God's will and plan. Thus, tragedy and bad fortune are accepted, and some optimism characterizes even the poorest lives. Filipinos live very intimately with religion. This is tangible, a part of everyday life. We ascribe human traits to supernatural God whom we alternately threaten and thank, call upon for mercy or forgiveness, and appease by pledges. Prayer is an important part of our lives too. The faith of the Filipino is related to bahala na, which instead of being viewed as defeatist resignation, may be considered positively an important psychological support on which we can lean during difficult times. The seventh one is still faith and religiosity. Our faith and daring was manifested at EDSA and at other times in our history when it was difficult to be brave. It is seen also in the capacity to accept failure and defeat without our self-concept being devastated, since we recognize forces external to ourselves as contributing to the unfolding of events in our lives. The eighth and last strength is ability to survive. Filipinos have an ability to survive which is manifested in our capacity for endurance despite difficult times, and in our ability to get by on so little. Filipinos make do with what is available in the environment, even, for example, by eking out a living from garbage dump. This survival instinct is related to the Filipinos who bravely carry on through the harshest economic and social circumstances. Regretfully, one wonders what we might be able to do under better circumstances. As we are done with the strength of the Filipino character, what about the weaknesses? Same as with the strengths, we have also here 8 weaknesses of the Filipino character, starting off with the first one. The first and second weaknesses is just the same, which is extreme personalism. Filipinos view the world in terms of personal relationships, and the extent to which one is able to personally relate to things and people determines our recognition of their existence and their value. This personalism is manifested in the tendency to give personal interpretations to actions, for example, to take things personally. Thus, a sincere question may be viewed as a challenge to one's competence, or positive feedback may be interpreted as a sign of special affection. There is, in fact, some basis for such interpretations as Filipinos become personal in their criticism and praise. Second, personalism is also manifested in the need to establish personal relationships before any business or work relationship can be successful. Because of this personalistic worldview, Filipinos have difficulty dealing with all forms of impersonal stimuli. Personal contacts are involved in any transaction and are difficult to turn down. Preference is usually given to family and friends in hiring, delivery of services, and even in voting. Extreme personalism thus leads to the graft and corruption evident in Philippine society. The third weakness is extreme family-centeredness. While concern for the family is one of the Filipinos' greatest strengths, in the extreme it becomes a serious flaw. Excessive concern for the family creates an in-group to which the Filipino is fiercely loyal, to the detriment of concern for the larger community or the common good. Excessive concern for family manifests itself in the use of one's office and power as a means of promoting the interests of the family, in factionalism, patronage, and political dynasties, and in the protection of erring family members. It results in lack of concern for the common good and acts as a block to national consciousness. The fourth one is lack of discipline. The Filipinos' lack of discipline encompasses several related characteristics. We have a casual and relaxed attitude towards time and space, which manifests itself in lack of precision and compulsiveness, in poor time management, and in procrastination. We have an aversion to following strictly a set of procedures, which results in a lack of standardization and quality control. We are impatient and unable to delay gratification or reward, resulting in the use of shortcuts, skirting the rules or the palusot syndrome, and in foolhardiness. We are guilty of ningaskugon, which we start out projects with full vigor and interest, which abruptly die down, leaving things unfinished. Our lack of discipline often results in inefficient and wasteful work systems, the violation of rules leading to more serious transgressions, and a casual work ethic leading to carelessness and a lack of follow-through. The fifth weakness is passivity and lack of initiative. Filipinos are generally passive and lacking in initiative. One waits to be told what has to be done. There is a strong reliance on others, for example, leaders and government, to do things for us. This is related to the attitude towards authority. Filipinos have a need for a strong authority figure and feel safer and more secure in the presence of such an authority. One is generally submissive to those in authority and is not likely to raise issues or to question decisions. Filipinos tend to be complacent, and there rarely is a sense of urgency about any problem. There is a high tolerance for inefficiency, poor service, and even violations of one's basic rights. In many ways, it can be said that the Filipino is too patient and long-suffering or matiisin, too easily resigned to one's fate. Filipinos are thus easily oppressed and exploited. The sixth one is colonial mentality. Filipinos have a colonial mentality which is made up of two dimensions. The first one is a lack of patriotism or an active awareness, appreciation, and love of the Philippines. The second one is an actual preference for things foreign. Filipino culture is characterized by an openness to the outside, adopting and incorporating the foreign elements into our image of ourselves. Yet, this image is not built around a deep core of Philippine history and language. The result is a cultural vagueness or weakness that makes Filipinos extraordinarily susceptible to the wholesome acceptance of modern mass culture, which is often Western. Thus, there is preference for foreign fashion, entertainment, lifestyles, technology, consumer items, and etc. The seventh weakness is the Kanyakanya Syndrome. Filipinos have a selfish, self-serving attitude that generates a feeling of envy and competitiveness towards others, particularly one's peers who seem to have gained some status or prestige. Towards them, the Filipino demonstrated the so-called crab mentality, using the leveling instruments of chismis, intriga, and unconstructive criticism to bring others down. There seems to be a basic assumption that another's gain is our loss. The Kanyakanya Syndrome results in the dampening of cooperative and community spirit and in the denial of the rights of others. And the last one is lack of self-analysis and self-reflection. There is a tendency in the Filipino to be superficial and even somewhat flighty. In the face of serious problems, both personal and social, there is lack of analysis or reflection. Joking about the most serious matters prevents us from looking deeply into the problem. There is no felt need to validate our hypotheses or explanations of things. Thus, we are satisfied with superficial explanations for and superficial solutions to problems. Related to this is the Filipino emphasis on form, maporma, rather than upon substance. There is a tendency to be satisfied with rhetoric and to substitute this for reality. Empty rhetoric and endless words are very much part of public life. As long as the right things are said, as long as the proper documents and reports exist, and as long as the proper committees, task forces, or offices are formed, Filipinos are deluded into believing that what ought to be actually exists. The Filipino lack of self-analysis and our emphasis upon form is reinforced by an educational system that is often more form than substance, and a legal system that tends to substitute law for reality. To conclude, from this discussion of the strengths and weaknesses of the Filipino character, it is clear that there is much that is good here, but there is also much that needs to be changed. Many of our strong points are also the sources of our weaknesses, and that is why we must try to lessen or even eliminate our weaknesses and to develop more our strengths. This starts with analyzing, understanding, and appreciating these strengths and weaknesses, and by doing so, we need to first understand ourselves so that we may change for the better. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.